Have you ever noticed how people who go on dates lie in lots of small, insignificant ways throughout the course of the conversation, despite the fact that the person sitting across from them at the table has virtually nothing to gain from these small lies? Or how often have you been at work or at a party and you've overheard coworkers or friends lying, embellishing stories, exaggerating, or minimizing stories when the outcome doesn't really matter to anyone who's listening? Well, there's a pretty simple reason why we do this, and it's rooted in human nature. We want to be well liked. And being well liked is not a problem in and of itself, but in the form of dating, and seen through the lens of dating, it can be a very problematic thing to lie in order to be well liked. Now, I don't need to be a relationship expert to tell you that lying frequently, particularly to people that you want to be romantically involved with, is not a good idea. And oftentimes, it can be a recipe for disaster, and it can set a foundation for a really bad relationship that's built on lies, literally. However, we can't get past the fact that people want to be well liked, and I have to admit that even I am guilty of doing this in my life. You don't want to feel the sting of rejection, and so you bend the truth and you change the narrative a little bit to suit yourself or to suit the other person. Making these little lies allows us to present a more idealized version of ourselves to other people, one that we think the person listening on the other side is going to like more. These lies are usually harmless, and it can be something as simple as your date asks you, "So, do you have any hobbies?" And you carefully avoid saying that you like playing video games, and you just choose the rest of the hobbies that you think are more socially acceptable or quote-unquote cool. Another example could be if your date or friend asks you if you've seen a movie or read a particular book, and rather than admit that you haven't and potentially expose yourself to the rejection or the idea that you're not as cultured or you're not as hip, you lie and say you do know it or you have seen it, and you make some sort of vague, generalized statement that makes them maybe believe that you know what you're talking about. On the surface, presenting a more idealized version of yourself, especially in a romantic setting or a potentially romantic setting, seems harmless enough. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just highlighting the things about myself that are better and healthier for a relationship. I know that I'm not going to spend 3 or 4 hours every night until 2, 3 a.m. grinding out these games if I did have a girlfriend, so I'll just tell her that I don't do those things now, and then when she does want to date me, it'll be easy to slip into those shoes. We construct these scaffolds of logical thinking, these webs that we inevitably get caught in because it's comforting, because it allows us to engage in this fantasy of who we want to be, who we'll become once everything falls into place. And I could spend a whole other video talking about how this is a very dangerous form of thinking. But for this, I just want to focus on why the idealized version of yourself and the lying that's involved in presenting that version of yourself is so dangerous. And it's because by suppressing part of who you are, whether it's good or bad, to appeal to someone else, what you're engaging in is a denial of self-love. And that denial of self-love basically shields you should you get rejected. Let me give you an example. Person A, guy A, has a date with girl, and in that date, he highlights all of the sports that he loves to play, all of the athletic things that he does and engages with. Problem is, he doesn't actually do those things. He used to when he was younger, but he doesn't anymore. He can't find the time, he has no motivation, maybe he doesn't have enough money for equipment or for subscriptions to go to the gym or to join the sports club. He's designing a situation in which he's attracting potential mates who are interested in something that he can't deliver on. Eventually, unless through some sheer miracle he's able to walk the tightrope of this lie until he gets to the other side, chances are he's going to slip and fall. He's going to reveal that he actually doesn't do all of these things, and that's going to break down the communication between him and his romantic partner. Most likely, it's going to end in a breakup. But that's okay, because he can turn inward and say to himself, well, that wasn't the real me anyways, so if that's not who she liked, that's okay. This is where it gets really scary. I'm guilty of this myself, and I've seen friends of mine do this countless times, lying in different ways, suppressing different parts of their personalities to appeal to different girls, different women. I want to seem more punk for this person. I want to seem more preppy for that person, or more athletic or more nerdy. and it never works out. It always ends 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, a year later because they're not being themselves. And all along they think, oh, I just haven't found the right one. Once I find the perfect woman, she'll accept me for who I am. Stop right there. She can't accept you, and no one can accept you because you haven't accepted yourself. You're not even willing to present yourself in an honest way to someone who doesn't know you. You're already lying about who you are and what you're about before you've even made a connection. So how can you expect someone else to love the parts of you that you don't even love yourself? It sounds cliche and maybe a little bit common sense, but it really is that simple. If you suppress part of your personality to appeal to someone romantically or even to build a friendship, you're simply denying self-love to yourself, and you're denying that part of yourself truth. In doing so, you're creating a situation, a trap, that you will inevitably fall into when the person rejects you or rebukes you in some way, whether romantically or platonically. At that point, you can then spring the reverse Uno card on them and say, hey, that's okay. You didn't like me for who I was anyways. But all along, you didn't like you for who you were. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but once you see the fallacy in it, it's hard to ignore. So you're probably wondering, what's the alternative? Are you suggesting that I be 100% authentic and honest and fly my freak flag every single time I go on a date or meet someone new? No. We all have different versions of ourselves that we show at different times. There's a saying in Japanese culture about wearing 3 masks. One that you show the outside world, one that you show your loved ones, and one that you only show to yourself. I think the best way to incorporate that advice into what I'm trying to say is to blend your personality down into a mask that you can then show in various hues and shades and saturations of color to the various stages of people in society. I don't want to hide who I am as a gamer or as a jokester or as a jock to everyone. Rather, I'll just have percentages of that personality in each mask, and the percentages will change, but the people in each step, whether they're a stranger, a loved one, or a life partner, will know that those exist. And it's up to them and me as we develop a rapport and a relationship to get to the bottom of truly how deep and how large those percentages are. Simply put, the answer is be honest. Try to be as honest as you feel comfortable with about the things that you like and dislike with people that you interact with, particularly if you're going to spend a lot of time interacting them at work, in the same classroom, or in a romantic or platonic relationship. It's important to establish honesty because it not only reflects who you are, but it also builds self-confidence, because once you find people that like you, you will learn to like yourself more. The only downside to this strategy is that it forces you to reckon with the parts of your personality that aren't necessarily conducive to a healthy relationship when you do face rejection. The value of suppressing your personality is that you always have that trapdoor. You always have that escape plan when someone rejects you. Haha, that wasn't the real me. Gotcha. If you're honest, you no longer have that escape route. Your back is up against the wall and you have to face the facts. They didn't like A, B, C, or X, Y, Z about you. Although it sounds scary, this kind of authentic rejection is really important for personal growth. I urge you to try it out and see where it leads you, because when you can be honest with others, you can be honest with yourself. And when you have honesty as a tool, it becomes a powerful weapon in your arsenal that allows you to overcome even the toughest of life's obstacles. So the next time you catch yourself setting up for a lie when you're on a date, or carefully omitting parts of your personality when you're texting someone who you think is cute, consider the alternative. Throw all of the rules, all of the restrictions out, and just abide by one principle. Be honest. You'd be surprised at just how relaxed, how weightless you'll feel when you let go of all of these chains, all of these rules that bind you, and all you have to do is answer honestly. I can't promise that you'll experience any less rejection than you already have. And if anything, history tells us that being honest will result in more rejection. That being said, trust the process, because all it takes is finding one person who wants to be just as honest in return, and you may have just found your soulmate.